Welcome to Nectar instruction. We're going to be covering text 3. So let us repeat the invocation. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So responsibly. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadayam Dadati Swapadantikam. When Lord Shri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was established within this material world, mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter until his lotus. I'll do this one line at a time so you can respond. Nana Shastra Vicharane Kanipuno Sadharma Samstapako. Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Anyo Sharanyakaro. Pada Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko. Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalato. Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalato. I offer my respectful obeisance to the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbing root the gopis and engaged in transcendental loving service of Shri Shiva and Krishna. Shri Sad Goswami Astakam Ki. So we covered text 1. Let's just repeat that. Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam. Jiva vegam udarapasta vegam. Etam vegam yo vishaheta dira. Sarvam apimam pritibim shashishyat. A sole person who can tolerate the urge to speak and mind's demands, the actions of anger and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to be disciples all over the world. And we describe how the first 3 verses are basically focusing on self-development, how you can improve, how you can advance in spiritual life. The next verses after 3 are going to be focusing on how to deal with others around you. Okay, so the first 3, you can only deal with others and interact with others appropriately when you yourself have developed sufficiently. So, interpersonal skills, we talk about interpersonal relationships, can only be effective when you have personal development skills. You have basically developed personally. If you can't manage yourself, it becomes very difficult to manage others and other relationships. If you can't maintain your anger, control your anger, then forget about not becoming angry with other people and even getting affected. So it's all about you developing yourself. So the first verse we can see focuses on controlling all these different urges. Then the second verse, Atyahara prayasascha Rajalto Niyamagraha Jana Sangascha Lolyam cha Sadbir Bhakti Vinashyati. So the first verse was speaking about human life. And from human life, we come to devotional life. And here Srila Rupa Goswami is explaining 6 aspects, 6 things that will vinashyati, will destroy bhakti. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of scripture and working independently or whimsically, associating worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievement. So this verse is describing very clearly, somebody is interested in their relationship with Krishna. Somebody wants to develop their relationship with Krishna. They have to avoid these 6 obstacles. That means eating too much, collecting too much, greedy, etc., etc. Even in terms of rules and regulations, niyamagraha means that we accept rules and regulations for the wrong reason, which means we practice spiritual life following the rules for the wrong reason, or we neglect the rules, we don't follow them at all. Niyamagra also means that according to your level of advancement, you would be situated somewhere along this yoga ladder to bhakti, to pure devotion. So doesn't matter where you are on a ladder or on a staircase, the objective of someone on a staircase is to move up. If you're on a ladder, it's meant to take you to the next rung. So it doesn't matter where we are in our devotional practice. Some are beginning, some are in the middle, some are advanced, some are getting onto the ladder. It doesn't matter. From where you are, if you are eligible to move to the next rung, and you don't move to the next rung, that becomes an obstacle. Now move to the next rung because they are attached to the lower rungs. They are attached to certain things. So it's described, if you qualify to move to the next rung and you don't, that also becomes an obstacle. So you cannot stagnate in spiritual life. Prabhupada will give the example of a rocket. The rocket is either moving up, has momentum, going forward, going up, and if there is no, momentum, if there's no turbulence, if there's no push, the engine is not on, if the engine is switched off of the rocket, then that rocket will have no momentum. It will slow down and eventually it can descend. So there has to be constant momentum in spiritual life. Then today's verse, text 3. Now we're going to cover 6 activities, sadbi bhakti prasidhyati, that are favorable for devotional service. So we covered activities or principles that are important for human life, controlling the senses, activities that destroy devotion, and today we're going to cover activities that enhance devotion. After me. Utsahan nischaya dharyat tat karma pravartanat gatsato vrite sadbhi bhakti prasidhyati. Utsahan nischaya dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatya gatsato vrite sadbhi bhakti prasidhyati. Utsahan nischaya dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vrite sadbhi bhakti prasidhyati. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1, being enthusiastic. 2, endeavoring with confidence. 3, being patient. 4, acting according to regular principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaran, Vishnu Bhakti, 7, 3, hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna. 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Okay, so Srila Rupa Goswami is presenting here 6 very important principles and activities that are important for flourishing our devotional life. Now, there are many principles that can help us in our devotional practice. Okay. Name some aspects that are important and can help us in our devotional practice that may not be here. Right, so chanting is here. Right, be truthful. Okay, so be truthful is an important quality for practicing devotional service. Now, there are so many qualities, but Srila Rupa Goswami, out of all the qualities and principles and activities that are there, he's taken all of them and given us the essential principles. He's filtered them. And now he's given us these 6 most important essential instructions. Remember, we said Upadeshamrita is Upa and Upadesh and Amrita, the essence of all instructions. So the essence of all instructions that can help us in our devotion, these 6 are very, very important. So therefore, if we remember these 6 and apply these 6, our spiritual life will flourish. And here, Srila Rupa Goswami says, undoubtedly assure complete success in pure devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport first establishes what is pure devotional service, what is bhakti. So Prabhupada emphasizes bhakti as cultivation. Devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. So in the first part of the purport, Prabhupada establishes what is bhakti, what is devotional service. And right in the first sentence, Prabhupada said it is not some sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm in love with Krishna. I love Krishna so much. And it stays there. We cannot see that love in terms of activities. So, sometimes people may say, yes, Krishna, I dream of Krishna, he came into my life, and I experienced some ecstasy. Even though ecstasy is there in devotional life, but Prabhupada is making very clear, that's not the substance. The substance is practical activity, which means that love is displayed through action. When we say we love someone, when the mother says, I love the child, we can see that practically in the form of action. And Prabhupada gives the example, the wife tells the husband, I love you so much. Husband comes from work, and the wife says, I love you so much, and there's no food on the table. And the wife says, no, I love you so much. And the husband says, but where's the supper? No, but I love you so much. See, the husband is not going to be impressed. But if the wife cooked a wonderful meal and then presented the meal, then the husband comes and he sees, this is the way she can display her love. Same thing with a child. The mother can display the love for the child through activities, through commitment, through dedication. When a newborn cries, even in the middle of the night, the mother would immediately get up and attend to the child. Okay? Practical activity, which displays one's love. Similar in relation to Krishna. our love to Krishna is displayed. Krishna sees your love, not so much in terms of your feelings initially, okay, or what you say, but more in terms of what you do, in terms of practical devotional service. Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 has defined devotional service as follows. Anyabilasita sunyam jnana karmana vritam amashilanam bhakti uttama. Uttama bhakti or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of God, Shri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fruit of karma, impersonal gain, or other selfish desires. So Prabhupada quotes the Paribhasa Sutra of Nectar Devotion, the verse that describes pure devotional service. In Nectar Devotion, the whole of Nectar Devotion is describing this verse, pure devotional service. And in essence, pure devotional service is favorable to the Lord, and there is no ulterior motive. You're simply acting for the pleasure of Krishna. There is no other motive. Love, generally, if you love someone, you would practically engage in serving them for their pleasure with nothing in return. If you want something in return, it is not love, it's a business arrangement. You want something. Therefore, when Lord Nrsimhadev asked Prahlad Maharaj, ask anything, what do you want? Prahlad Maharaj responded that, my Lord, I don't want anything. I didn't serve you so that I can have some business arrangement. I serve you, you give me something back. No, I simply serve you out of love. So that's pure devotional service. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activities. You cultivate the land, there has to be some activities. If you love your land, what do? You cultivate it, you take care of it. Okay? Then Srila Prabhupada describes, so pure devotional service is cultivation. What type of cultivation is there? And this verse is quoted, Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandam Dasyam Satyam Atmani Vedanam. Srimad Bhaktam 7.5.23. Who recites this verse? Who says this verse? Prahlad Maharaj. The 9 processes of devotional service are as follows: hearing the name and the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting His glories, remembering the Lord, serving the lotus feet, worshipping the deity, offering obeisance to the Lord, acting as the Lord's servant, making friends with the Lord, and surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. Now, these 9 practices of bhakti are mentioned. In Nectar Devotion, these are expanded into 64 different limbs. So, in our history, in the Bhagavatam, there are different personalities which are here, picture, that have perfected at least one of these different practices. So let's see if you can recollect or tell us from the picture who mastered the practice of hearing. Who mastered the practice of hearing from this picture? Not only you mustn't only read the Bhagavatam, you also know see the pictures so you can identify who's there. Yes. Very, very good. March Parikshit, he's sitting here, he mastered hearing. Okay. Who mastered chanting the glories? No. March Parikshit mastered hearing. How could he master hearing if somebody didn't speak? Sukadeva Goswami, right? So Sukadeva Goswami mastered speaking about the glories of Krishna. Remembering the Lord, Remembering the Lord? Prahlad Maharaj. Serving the Lord's lotus feet. Lakshmi Devi. Worshipping the deity. Prithu Maharaj. Offering obeisances unto the Lord. That means offering prayers, offering obeisances to the Lord. Akrura offered prayers. He mastered offering prayers. Then acting as the Lord's servant. Hanuman, he at least 2 out of 9. Very good. And then making friends with the Lord. Arjuna, very good. And surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. Bali Maharaj. Okay, so we should know these people, these personalities. Go back to the video and recording and memorize them. Okay, and use this picture to test yourself. We should know these great personalities who have mastered, who have perfected one of these different limbs of devotional practices. So we also engage in these 9 different processes, and the essence or the most important is chanting the holy name of Krishna. So we're going to cover the different 6 aspects which are favorable to bhakti. Enthusiasm, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, these fall under one's attitude. So 3 are focusing on the attitude that we have towards bhakti. And the next 3 are focusing on our behavior. And these 6 principles are favorable to the excellent pure devotional service. Prabhupada says, if one strictly follows the advice given in this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, namely, being enthusiastic, which is number 1, being confident, being patient, giving up the association of unwanted persons, following the regulative principles and remaining in the association of devotees, one is sure to advance in devotional service. So if we follow these principles, we will make advancement. Okay, so let us look at enthusiasm first. Prabhupada says endeavor, and he gives a definition of enthusiasm. Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha, enthusiasm. Endeavoring with intelligence. Because you can get someone who's endeavoring, but they may not be active with intelligence. They're doing the wrong thing. They're very active, doing the wrong thing. Or they're very active for the wrong motive. Okay, so here you're acting with intelligence, and that intelligence is guided by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Okay, so very important. Enthusiasm means action. One should always act for Krishna. So it's not just any action. It's not that I'm just enthusiastic. I do act. I act, and I'm inspired to act, and I act. But rather, you're acting for Krishna. That's real enthusiasm. And without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful even materially. Even material life, you have to be enthusiastic. So this quality of enthusiasm is very, very important. It's the first quality that's mentioned. Therefore, it's key. And the more you are enthusiastic about your practice, the more you will, the Lord will reciprocate to that enthusiasm, and the more you'll be inspired. Prabhupada gave the example of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, he went to a party, and his friends, they wanted to play a trick on him. So what they did was they put some white glue on his seat, and they all had to dress in like this black coat type of attire. So he, went to this party and he went to his seat, and obviously he sat on his seat, and his black coat got stuck with the white glue. And when the music started and he wanted to now go to the dance floor, he got up and his coat at the back got ripped. So Charlie Chaplin, with his ripped coat, went onto the dance floor, and he started to dance, and he noticed people around him were laughing, and he's wondering, oh, why are they laughing at me? But he thought maybe they're laughing at me because I'm dancing nicely. So he got more enthusiastic, and he started dancing more enthusiastically, and he saw the people laughing even more. And he was very enthusiastically dancing, thinking they were inspired by his dancing. But then those that were laughing, they were noticing, hold on, he's the center of focus. He's the center of attention. Everybody's focusing on him. And we know out there in the material world, everybody wants the spotlight on them. So they didn't feel happy that Charlie Chaplin was in the spotlight. They also wanted to be in the spotlight. So one person, who figured this out, he went into the men's room, tore his coat, right? And he came on the scene, and he also started to dance with his coat, with his. Because one by one, they all went, tore the coats, and they all started to dance following Charlie Chaplin. So Prabhupada gave this little story to illustrate how, even though something was wrong, but because he was enthusiastic, that enthusiasm became contagious. Okay? So an enthusiasm is contagious. Similarly, if you're lazy in a team, if one person is lazy and the others are motivated, what happens? Yeah, it brings the team down. Wouldn't you think if there's, let's say, 10 people that are motivated and one person that's lazy, wouldn't you think in terms of numbers that the 10 people that are motivated should, practically encourage the person who's lazy and bring him up? But does it happen? No. If you got a box of tomatoes and one rotten tomato in there, what happens? Yeah, if you don't take that rotten tomato out, it starts to influence the others. Okay, so the negative quality of not being enthusiastic, or being lazy, or being lethargic is detrimental, and it can become contagious. Now, we should prevent ourselves by being enthusiastic. What happens if I'm not enthusiastic? So I'm not motivated. Let's say I'm not motivated to be in a kirtan. I'm not motivated to attend classes. What should I do? But then what can I do? What should I do? Yes, I should keep going. That means I should basically pretend, in one sense, that I am enthusiastic. So let's consider if I'm in a kirtan, right? And I'm trying to be enthusiastic by clapping and by dancing. But my heart is not there. I really don't feel like being there. Now, you don't feel like being there. Do the other devotees know you don't feel like being there? No, because if you're externally clapping and being enthusiastic, right? Like pretending. And Prabhupada said, if you pretend, if you imitate, not really pretend, but if you imitate something that's good, that's good. So I'm imitating, being enthusiastic. What happens is the other devotees, they sense the enthusiasm. And when they sense the enthusiasm, it rubs off you. Because why would that rub off you? When they sense the enthusiasm, you have inspired them to become more enthusiastic, and they feel inspired. When they feel inspired, the super soul becomes pleased. And when the super soul becomes pleased, the super soul is also in your heart, therefore you also feel inspired, and then that natural inspiration comes and you become enthusiastic. So you started off trying to just be, enthusiastic, clapping, dancing, chanting loudly, even though you're not inspired, but because you're serving the devotees, that inspiration filters and inspires you, and now you become inspired. And you'll find very often you're not inspired to associate, do some service, but if you just try to force yourself and try to get into it, you'll find that by that inspiration, by that collective inspiration and inspiring each other, you will become motivated and enthused. Is a very, very important quality. And we should engage in all activities that can enliven us, and we should engage everything. Yukta Vairagya, engage everything in practical service to Krishna. So there are many reasons why does one lose enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. And we've compiled, one devotees compiled 9 different categories. For example, the first one, problems arising from one's mind, body, and senses. 29 different examples. There is association of devotees, there's non-devotees, associate devotees, difficulty in one's sadhana, problem with senior devotees, including gurus, ISKCON management, social structure, ISKCON education, training in general. We'll send this out on email. We're not going to go into each one, and you can go through them. So, for example, in the first category, problems arising from one's mind, body, and senses. So, envy of other devotees, that can dampen enthusiasm. Laziness, lack of confidence, indulging in sense gratification. You'll see, if you engage in sense gratification, what happens is you lose enthusiasm. Each day, you'll find you can analyze what caused you to lose enthusiasm, poor control of one's mind, senses, etc. So different activities. So like that, we'll send a list. There's close to over maybe 100 odd different reasons. And it's good to know the different reasons, but also to know it so that you can counteract and be warned that if I fall prey to any of these activities or qualities, it can dampen my enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness. All right, so that's enthusiasm, utsaha, being enthusiastic. Any questions on that quality, that attitude? Okay, next one, confidence. Confidence. In devotional service, surrender means that one has to be confident of Krishna's mercy. We have to become confident of the goal and convinced that all other activities will not yield any enduring benefit. Complete confidence in devotional service will enable one to attain the desired goal. So, enthusiasm and confidence. And Utsa Nishchaya. We must have faith or confidence in the process. So that's also very, very important. The more you have faith and confidence in the process, what will happen? Yes, it will lead to advancement, but what will happen if you have confidence in something? You'll be more enthusiastic, yes. What will happen if I have confidence in a process? Well, that means you have faith in the process. So what will happen if you have faith in a process? If you have faith in what you're doing, you have faith in bhakti. Well, you will get closer. You can try to convince someone. If you're confident, you keep going. Okay? Confidence allows you to continue. If you don't have confidence, if you're not confident, you lose confidence, then you say, well, why bother? That means you stop, you give up. Okay? So you need to have enthusiasm to continue, or to have that. You need to have enthusiasm to have the energy to engage, And you have to have the confidence that allows you to continue. Because the results are not immediate. Therefore, the next quality that we're going to cover is patience. So if you don't have confidence, you're not going to be patient. You're not going to continue. So you need to be convinced that just by practicing Krishna consciousness, your life can become perfect. Everything can be achieved by the practice of Krishna consciousness. And we have to convince ourselves in different ways. So for example, who's seeking for happiness? Everyone. Now, what is one's eternal? Everyone has a certain relation with Krishna, and that relationship is eternal. So we all are eternal servants of Krishna. That means we all have a relationship with Krishna that gives us bliss. And what we are looking for is that bliss, is that happiness that is derived from serving Krishna. Will we get that pleasure in the material world? No. So when we convince ourselves that no matter what we do in the material world, we'll never be satisfied, then that gives us greater confidence to apply the process of bhakti, because we know that if I engage in devotional service, I will get the pleasure that is derived from serving Krishna, which is actually what I'm seeking because I am a servant of Krishna. In this way, it is one aspect that cultivates, that inspires this confidence for me to continue. Okay, so confidence is very, very important. Then the next quality is patience. Devotional service must be executed with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Successful execution of Krishna conscious activities require both patience and confidence. Okay, so these qualities are interrelated: enthusiasm, confidence, and patience. And I need to apply the process of bhakti, these qualities. Now, some two pastimes here. Now you must agree to very rigidly, Prabhupada, this is Prabhupada in a letter to Ganesha. Now you must agree to very rigidly follow the rules and regulations, that is, chanting 16 rounds of beads daily, rising early and attending Mangalarti, observing the 4 principles, attending the classes, eating only Bhagavad Prasad, as well as working under the instruction of my representatives such as the GBC representative and temple president. And if you follow this procedure very strictly, then your life will be glorious and you will go back home, back to God. And this I can guarantee. So here Prabhupada is guaranteeing, if we follow the process which he has given, which he hasn't invented, but he's basically gave it following the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. If you follow that, Prabhupada is guaranteed. Then Dinabandhu Prabhu recollects this pastime. Once Prabhupada was lecturing from his big Vyasasan in the new temple room in Los Angeles. At the end of his lecture, Prabhupada said, so if you will just follow these 4 regular principles in 10, 16 rounds, then you will go back home, back to Godhead. I guarantee it. He paused and looked around with all of us. Then he said again, I guarantee it. So Prabhupada gives many statements like that. And this again should increase our confidence. Because Prabhupada, he didn't come to change the world. He didn't charge people to be initiated, like many institutions do. So Prabhupada didn't charge people. Right? He had no ulterior motive to cheat people. And from scripture, we know that he's a special ambassador coming from the spiritual world to give this wonderful process of going back to the shelter of Krishna, serving Krishna. So like this, we should also increase our confidence by our confidence in what Prabhupada is saying. And we should maintain that confidence. Right? So we read about patience. Also connected to confident. The more you enthusiastic, the more you confident, and you know that yes, there will be some time. The fruits that you get in Krishna consciousness are not necessarily immediate. Even though the result is, or the impact is immediate, but depending on where you are on the yoga ladder, the experience will be different. Or as Prabhupada says, the express elevator. Okay, so you're in the express elevator of devotional service, and depending where you are in this journey, there will be results, but the results may not necessarily be felt. I normally give the example of, if you look at your nails growing, can you see them growing? No. So right now, if you look at my nails, they're not growing. I don't see them moving. I don't see them growing. But after 2 weeks, after 1 year, if I don't cut them, right, you definitely know, oops, they need to be cut. So they have been growing, but because they're growing so slightly, I cannot notice them at any one point in time. I need some time to notice. So similar in devotional service, where as soon as we practice, one of the most important activities that starts to happen when you practice devotional service, one of the first things that happen is, one of the first things that start happening when you practice devotional service, when you chant Hare Krishna, when you engage in devotional service, you get purified. Cheto Darpana Marjana. Your heart starts to become cleansed. And again, you may not notice the cleansing, but over time you will notice the desires are diminishing, becoming more, senses are becoming more controlled, you're becoming more attached to Krishna, you want to render devotional service, you're becoming more inspired, more attached. And as you advance, this attachment, this rati to Krishna is one way one can gauge that one is making advancement. So it requires patience. Prabhupada gives few examples, like husband and wife get married, and the wife immediately wants a child. But she's not going to get a child, she has to wait 9 months. Right? So things take time. And even in spiritual life, things take time. Especially in spiritual life, because it's depending on Krishna. If Krishna wants, he can give it the result instantly. But the Lord is also testing. Maya is also testing to see, are we sincere in this practice? Therefore, the result will come according to Krishna's desire. Now consider you on this long journey. If you're on this long journey, you need 3 things for you to reach your destination on this long journey. Okay. So the first thing you need on this long journey is the enthusiasm to drive. If you just look at that road and say, all the way, this is like going to take days, I'm not interested in driving. Which means you just lost the enthusiasm to drive. You haven't even started the journey. Just looking at the journey, you decided this road is too long, it's going to take me a few days, I'm not interested. So if you want to reach your destination across these mountains, you have to be enthusiastic. Enthusiasm is key. Then you have to know this road and you have to know this journey. If you have traversed this road and you are confident of this road, or you know others that have traversed this road, then you're confident that yes, this is the right road. And because you're confident this is the right road, you will not give up the journey. So you're enthusiastic to continue to drive, and you're confident, which means you keep on the road. It's not like you'll drive, you're driving for 6 hours and thinking, am I going in the right direction? I don't even know in the right direction. Maybe I should stop. Maybe I should change route. Maybe I should go back. No. If you're confident of the road, of the journey, you'll keep going. Right? And naturally, because it's a long road, You have to have patience. You can't drive for half an hour and say, oh, I'm not even at my journey. So you have to be willing to keep driving and have the patience. We can compare this to our journey back to the spiritual world, our journey in reviving our relationship with Krishna. That we have to have the energy, the enthusiasm to act, to drive, to cultivate the process of bhakti. We have to be confident of the process because it's coming in parampara, it's coming by these great exalted personalities like Rupa Goswami and coming to us through Srila Prabhupada. So it's authentic, it's authorized, and we should be patient. In one sense, leave the result to Krishna. We should sincerely endeavor with full determination, full confidence, and full enthusiasm, and leave the result up to Krishna. And the destination, the result will be achieved. So I'm going to play a nice video clip. Prabhupada compares bhakti to cultivation. That means cultivation means I sow a seed in the ground, I cultivate the land, sow the seed, and I have to water the seed. I have to nurture the seed. So we have the Bhakti Lata beach in our heart, planted by the spiritual master, and it's in a seed form. If you don't cultivate the process of bhakti, that seed can be destroyed. Okay. So we need to keep cultivating the seed and nourish the seed. So this clip is going to demonstrate how, in terms of the Chinese bamboo, how a farmer is trying to cultivate this Chinese bamboo. And even though nothing seems to be happening, he's still enthusiastic, he's confident, he's patient, and he gets the result. So our dream and our hopes is to revive our eternal relationship with Krishna. And just as this farmer, he was watering and watering and watering, and nothing seemed to be happening. But we know that those seeds will be nourished. So like that, even our devotional keeper, every activity we engage in, every devotional activity we engage in, is nourishing that devotional keeper. And it's explained, we know that 9 stages of bhakti, starting with Shraddha, faith, then devotional service, bhajana kriya, then sadhu sangha, so faith, sadhu sangha, then bhajana kriya, devotional service, then arata nivriti, cleansing the heart, removing all the weeds. That is a long, long journey. Once we go over anartha nivriti, then it's quicker. So you could consider, this farmer, his 5 years is basically engaging in devotional service in anartha nivriti. Once all the narratives are cleansed, then that creeper really flourishes very, very quickly. Okay, so we should have confidence, we should be enthusiastic, and we should be patient and continue. And then, in terms of behavior, we're going to cover 3 aspects following the regular principles of bhakti. The neglect of the regular principles will destroy devotional service. Okay? These principles, which are there in the process of bhakti, if we don't follow them, it will destroy our devotional service. For example, one aspect of cultivation, the farmer, and even in relation to our devotional practice, is watering the seed. So for us, what is the watering process? Chanting. So if I give up chanting, what will happen to my devotion? My devotional service will be destroyed. My devotional life will be destroyed. That's what Paul is making the point here. If one becomes slack in following the following principles, his progress will certainly be checked. Okay, so if we don't follow the following principles, no doubt our spiritual life will be checked. Chanting 16 rounds, etc., must also be faithfully performed. One has to become thoroughly callous to non-permanent activities and turn his attention instead to the regular principles of devotional service. So we have to move our attention from the non-permanent material world, material desires, material activities, to spiritual desires, spiritual activities. Okay? That's a very important activity. So this behavior of following the principles in devotional service, the practices, is key. Then abandoning association of non-devotees. In the previous verse, we also heard about the danger of non-devotee association. Here, Srila Rupa Goswami is re-emphasizing the danger of non-devotee association. And he's indirectly saying that what flourishes our devotional life is good association of devotees. Prabhupada gently would say, associating with advanced devotees. So associating with advanced devotees is very, very conducive. But in this case, Prabhupada is describing association of devotees. One must give up association of karmis, jnanis, yogis, and living association devotees. These concepts are meant for this purpose. Then there is little chance of worldly association. Okay, so we want to associate with advanced devotees so that our devotional creeper can flourish. If you associate with non-devotees, we mentioned previously, it can slowly destroy your devotional creeper. So, for example, non-devotee association, when Lord Mahaprabhu was asked, what is a devotee? Lord Mahaprabhu said, asat sangatya e vaishnavachar. That a devotee gives up unwanted association, bad association. So, unwanted associations in 2 categories, under the category of association and under the category of attachment. Under the category of association, you have 2 divisions, non-devotee association and women, associated with women, or those that are attached to women. And here, attached to women, associated with women means the opposite gender, and it means not according to Vedic principles. So under non-devotee association, you got 7 categories. You got those who are jnanis, mundane scholars, those who are karmis, fruitive workers, those who are yogis, those who are demigod worshippers, those who are drive logicians, atheists, and sense enjoyers. All the association is detrimental to one's devotional life. And then you got association with women or those attached to women. And then on other side, you got attachment to mundane assets, okay, mundane things, both subtle and gross, and prejudice, attachment to one's prejudice. Prejudice. So prejudice means both things that, like opinions, things that you've cultivated, that you're attached to, both from your past life and from the current life. So people grow up with a certain prejudice that, oh no, I think it's like this and I know it's like this and that's it. So when you attach to those things and you maintain those attachments, they're detrimental. So bad association pollutes desires, weakens faith, and pollutes one's intelligence. Now, we'll find that in our devotional service, do we have specific opinions? Yeah, even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna in many verses, this is my opinion. Right? But those opinions are eternal truths. So if we attached to a specific opinion, Krishna conscious truth, that means we also, for the others, it seems we also prejudiced. We also attach to our so-called belief systems and what we think is right. And they also attach to their belief systems and what they think is right. So their attachments will be detrimental to the process of bhakti. Mundane attachments of false opinions and attachments is detrimental. But bona fide opinions and facts in relation to Krishna or Krishna consciousness, if you attach to those things, they will help your devotion. So some people may have an opinion that Durga is God, that a certain demigod is God, and they have that prejudice. That attachment, that prejudice will inhibit their devotional life to Krishna. Whereas if we have an opinion, a prejudice that Krishna is God, and we also stick to that opinion. But because that opinion is a fact, and it's scripturally based, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by being attached to that fact, even though it seems like one's opinion, one will naturally flourish in one's devotional people. So we should be convinced of what is fact and what is prejudice, and we want to follow. Now, it's important that here when we talk about asatsang tyagas, giving up this non-devotee association, that doesn't mean we go around minimizing the materialists or disrespecting the materialists. It's not we go around being puffed up and thinking, okay, I'm better than everybody else and everybody else is useless and they're going to hell. No, we have to be very careful. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said we should respect all living entities. So we should always respect, and you can imagine if you have this type of puffed up attitude, how are you going to inspire them to surrender to Krishna? So one has to be humble and one has to be respectful. At the same time, we should understand that their association may be detrimental to my devotion. If I get a contagious disease, let's say I get a contagious and infectious disease, will I give the talk next week? No, why not? Because I will be incubated. Because I'll have a contagious and infectious disease. Now, if you don't come for class because I'm incubated, can I say, well, you don't like me anymore and I don't want to come for class, you disrespect me? No. Because I'm incubated to protect you from getting a disease, that doesn't mean that if you avoid me, you have something against me. Okay. Similarly, if we find a materialist whose association is bad, right, or a non-devotee whose association is bad, it's not that we disrespect him. He needs to be incubated. Or I need to shield myself from his influence, because if I don't shield myself from his influence, that can destroy my devotional creeper. And we have to understand that we've come to this process. We've got this opportunity to get the Bhakti Lata Beach, to get the process of Krishna consciousness, to be able to revive our dormant relationship with Krishna. We've got it after billions and billions and billions and billions of lifetimes. So to come to this point is rare. To get a human life is rare. Therefore, the scriptures encourage us, don't waste even this human form of life. What to talk about, in the human form, one gets the opportunity to be a devotee to Krishna. It's extremely fortunate. And then what to talk about getting a great, a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada's guidance and association. That's even more rare. And then to have all these great acharyas like Srila Rupa Goswami guiding us. That's even rare. So if you really compare how fortunate we are, it's inconceivable. And if we're not careful, Prabhupada said spiritual life is like a razor's edge. We associate with the wrong type of people, and that can destroy that devotional creeper. Okay? Therefore, we have to shield it, we have to protect it. It's very, very important. And here, Rupa Goswami is giving us these instructions so that we are aware and we take the proper precautions so that we don't destroy our devotional creeper. Any questions on those points? Prabhupada often gives the example in terms of non-devotee association. You're all working in the material environment. You're working at the corporate environment. So do we get non-devotee association there? Yeah. So does that mean you shouldn't go to work? When you go to the supermarket, are there non-devotees there? Does that mean you mustn't go to the supermarket? So there are non-devotees everywhere. How do we relate with them? Prabhupada gave the example of the monkey and the crocodile. The monkey is on the tree, the crocodile comes and says, come, I take you for a ride. You haven't seen the nice, beautiful scenery. Since you're on this tree, I'll take you for a free tour. Won't cost you anything. Be very quick, show you around, and then I'll bring you back. So the monkey thought, good, good idea, I haven't seen it, a nice excursion. So he decided, okay, jumped on the crocodile's back, and off they went. And the crocodile's taking for a tour as they're going around. At one point, the monkey asked, so where are we going? And the crocodile says, oh, I'm going home. And the monkey said, oh, why? And the crocodile said, we're going home so that my wife can have your heart for supper. And the monkey said, oh, why didn't you tell me? I left my heart on the tree. Let's go quickly back and get it. So the crocodile thought, well, that's true. If it doesn't have his heart, we can't have supper. We left. So the crocodile takes a turn, goes back to the tree. The monkey jumps back on the tree and says, thank you. No more invitations. So Prabhupada gave this example. The monkey, he associated with the crocodile, but he did not give his heart. Okay. We may associate with people, but we should not give them our heart. Our heart is solely and wholly for Radha and Krishna. Okay. So we want to give our heart to Radha and Krishna. We don't want to give our heart to any other materialist, any other person. We may associate with them, we may interact with them, and generally want to interact with them so that we can encourage them to take the next step to Krishna. Even if it's indirect. So somebody may not be interested in speaking about Krishna. They are really not interested in spiritual life. Can we help them in spiritual life? How? So we can help anyone indirectly or directly. Depending on how much they want, we should give them. But we should never give them our heart. Our heart is for. Okay, then the next behavior is number 6, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. In essence, this means to expertly for every moment the Krishna conscious activities. Example, the temple morning program. So there are great acharyas in our line, and we want to follow in the footsteps of these great acharyas. Prabhupada himself was an acharya, a teacher by example. He showed how to practice Krishna consciousness. He gave us the process. He gave us the activities that we should embrace. Instituted the morning program, chanting Hare Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, associate devotees, worshipping the deities. Prabhupada himself would follow these activities. Our great acharyas in our line, they've given us many guidelines in terms of our practices. So by following these great souls who have traversed this journey, so we're not like the first people that are following this process. Millions and millions of souls have followed this process in the past. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, great souls have followed this process of bhakti. They have perfected life. They have returned back to the spiritual world. So it's not something that's new. Okay. We should have faith in that. We should have confidence in that, and we should follow them. Okay. And we see this in this process is coming through Lord Chaitanya, through the 6 Goswamis, through the different acharyas, and coming to us through Srila Prabhupada. It's coming intact. It's coming tainted, completely pure. Our Prabhupada said that he did not change, he did not add or subtract. The process as it is. Even the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada titled it Bhagavad Gita as it is. He gave the message as it is. So we are fortunate to have this line, a disciplined line of great souls that we should follow in terms of the practice. And Prabhupada at the end of the Nectar of Instruction concludes, since all the devotees of the Lord are under protection of his divine, of his supreme potency, they should not deviate from the path of devotional service and take to the path of karma, jnani, or yoga. This is called utsaham nischay darya tatta karma parvatanat. Enthusiastically executing the regular principles of devotional service with patience and confidence. In this way, one can advance in devotional service without hindrance. Okay, so if we simply follow the path that is given to us, we have faith in the path, we have confidence in the path, and we simply embrace what Prabhupada has given us. And Prabhupada said that everything we need to know is in his books. So there's really nothing else outside that is required for us to perfect our life. Everything is given by Srila Prabhupada. We simply have to study what Prabhupada has given us, apply it in life, and benefit from what Srila Prabhupada has given us. All right. Any questions or comments anyone has on these 6 principles that nourishes our devotional kripa? Starting with being enthusiastic, being confident, being patient, following in the footsteps of the acharyas, avoiding bad association, and following the regular principles. Anyone has any questions? Any questions on that?
And then in confidence, sometimes, well, there's a very fun, sometimes one is puffed up. So what's the distinction between, how do you know that you're not acting on the platform of being puffed up? That, like we have a service, feel like, okay, you're the one, you're doing the service. confidence.
So the question is, what's the difference, how to distinguish between someone who's puffed up and performing a service and someone who's confident and performing a service? Externally, we may not be able to gauge somebody who's enthusiastic and somebody who's confident, right? Or somebody who's enthusiastic and puffed up with his ego, because they're both active, but they're both active, and they both may be active externally. They both seem, serious and unmotivated in the spiritual life. For us, we may not be able to judge, but Krishna knows exactly someone who's puffed up and someone who's not. And someone who is sincere, humble, and endeavoring in his practice, Krishna will reciprocate with that. Somebody who's puffed up, proud, Krishna will reciprocate with him. And we'll see that those who have, because remember, if somebody's puffed up and proud, that is not pure devotional service. Motivated, right? It's tainted with his ego. And when you taint something with your ego, it'll come back. You'll get a pin that'll come towards you to burst that bubble of your ego. So somehow or other, Krishna will send those pins. So we don't need to worry about whether the person is engaging with his ego or without his ego. Our goal is to analyze what is my intention. Is my intention pure? And let me focus on making my intention pure and be careful so that I don't fall in the trap of being puffed up or being, or having a motive that is detrimental to devotional service. So let Krishna be the judge of that. So when they say, when the statement is that 90% of spiritual life is dependent on association, that, how I associate will impact my spiritual life the association will impact my spiritual life tremendously. If I'm isolated from association, which means I'm a loner and I'm going to be interested in anyone, that becomes that situation becomes very difficult to advance. Why? Because firstly, you are associating, even as a loner, and you're associating 100% with your mind. Say 90% of association, or 90% of our advancement is association, then just consider if you're associating with your mind that is not Krishna conscious, it's detrimental. So that point means that as far as possible, I need to make sure that I'm always in good association. And I can always be in good association, firstly with good devotees around me. Okay? If I go to the temple, associate with those who are advanced around me. If I'm not at the temple and I don't have devotees around me, how can I have good association? So I can associate Prabhupada books. So I'm still associating with Srila Prabhupada. I can listen to audio lectures of Prabhupada. I'm associating whole day with Prabhupada. So if I keep in touch with Prabhupada through his books, through his Vani, through his teachings, through his instructions, and if I apply those practices, if I apply those instructions in my life, I am with Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada is not different from his instructions. Those instructions, I'm actually associating with Srila Prabhupada. That association will keep me shielded, will keep me protected, will keep me inspired, and I will advance. So that's what it means. You cannot, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam, if anybody thinks they can practice spiritual life in separation, in isolation, they're hallucinating. There's no way. It has to be congregational chanting. The collective atmosphere or the collective coming of the devotees is important. And that's why the more serious we become, the more quality association collectively we can have together with each other. Because remember, it doesn't mean, if let's say I'm 10% advanced, doesn't mean I can't associate with somebody who's 11% advanced. Right? Even somebody who's not as advanced as me can still inspire me by their sincerity, by their dedication. Yeah. I mean, we saw like that, one clip of the small child singing the Rustica prayers. So, they may not be pure devotees, but because of their past lives and attachment, that inspiration, that inspires us. And even a simple bhakta, we had one devotee in Mildersdorf, very simple person. He would come and every day he would wash the windows, he would wash the pots, even in Yeovil. We had one person come. That was his service every day. He wasn't like a serious, dedicated practitioner, but he would come without fail to wash the pots. So just that simple, consistent dedication inspired us. See, and that's what enthusiasm and confidence and patience means. It's not that I'm enthusiastic for one day, the next day I'm not enthusiastic. Enthusiasm means maintained enthusiasm, consistent, confident over a long time. See, that means I'm actually convinced that I am a servant of Krishna. I need to cultivate my relation with Krishna, and whatever happens, I'm going to keep going on this path because I've made it so far. And I'm so close. Now let me just finish this last lap. And however long it takes, that's fine. Let me keep going and let me never give up this process because I have all the guidance that I need to now take it through this last mile. So let me associate nicely, avoid negative association, and that means also avoid those things that are detrimental, which we covered in the second verse. Avoid those things and embrace these things. And this way you'll find that your practice of Christian consciousness will be peaceful and enthusiastic. So, okay? Any other questions? So if somebody's sitting in the forest and chanting, is that beneficial or not? So the question is, what level is that person on for him to chant the holy name constantly? Is he constantly chanting and attentively hearing the holy name? Or is he also inattentive and hearing his mind? If he's advanced and he's controlled his mind and his mind is attached to the holy name and he can chant 24 hours a day in the forest, perfect. Because then he's associating with Krishna. But if he's artificially trying to show off, right, or artificially trying to show that he's advanced, he's presenting himself as very advanced and he's not advanced, and he's showing everybody I'm attached to holy name. I can go do bhajan, I can sit in a forest and I can chant. Right? He may fool us, but it's not a fool Krishna. Because he'll go to the forest and he'll chant Hare Krishna, and half of the time he's thinking about money and women. And once you start thinking of those things, you cannot pretend. That's the beauty of the process of bhakti. You can't pretend. The true colors will come out. Because, you're dealing with Krishna. You can't fool Krishna. He's the super soul. He's in your heart. So you really cannot fool Krishna. So somebody like that, the true colors will come out and he'll leave. And we know that there was one devotee from Africa. He went to Mayapur. He asked Srila Prabhupada first. He wrote to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I'm going to Mayapur so that I can sit and chant. Prabhupada said, no, just carry on serving the temple and you'll be happy. But he insisted. So then eventually he left to India, to Mayapur, and he set up his bhajan kutir, his hut, and he went into his hut and he started chanting all day. And he did that for some time, few days or few months. And after that, he disappeared altogether. Now you don't even see. Okay, so that's the problem. If the guru tells you you're not ready, just chant and engage in devotional practice. He knows best. And that's why he also, Prabhupada in the purport makes it very clear, we need to engage in devotional service under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. Because they know best, so you follow the instructions. So we can't just artificially be advanced. If you artificially be advanced, you'll fall down faster. We have to know what is my eligibility, what is my level, and let me follow that. And then from there, gradually, it's like taking a grade 1 student, put them in matric. They'll be totally confused. They can't survive in that grade. They have to go grade 1, grade 2 systematically. So in spiritual life also, systematically we need to embrace the process and grow. Become attached to the holy name. And I could be outside the forest in the city and still chant holy. Don't need to be in the forest to chant. Satatam kirtayam nama. We need to be attached to the holy name so that wherever I am, the holy name is resounding in my consciousness. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll stop there. And next week we will continue with text 4 that's now going to deal with how we deal with other devotees. And then, so Srila Rupa Goswami is going to take this aspect of association and expand it further. Associating with devotees, and then even associating with the most exalted devotees and how to recognize those devotees. So now we're going to go a little deeper into association, because you will find in text 2, he talked about association. In text 3, he talked about association. And now in text 4, 5, he's going to talk about association. So he's going to explain that. So we'll cover that next week. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.